meeting remote today. It's the Jack Blood Show. Thank you for being with us today, and all the great affiliates that pick us up here downstream from themicroeffect.com on little radio stations all over the country and aired all over the world. I am Jack Blood, as always, your narrator, your radio gun reporting. Ron Kukal is with us. We've done a number of stories on the USS Liberty. I'm always really proud to do this and get this information out. I think we have come a long way in getting people to understand what might have really happened on June 8, 1967. Ron Kukal is with us. He's one of the survivors of this deadly massacre by the State of Israel on really an act of war on an American ship. And he's here to talk about that. And we've had Phil Turney on in the past. I guess, Ron, you and Phil do a radio show together, and you guys speak all over the world, especially around this time of the year. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you. Yes, we do this year-round. Your Voice Counts on Republic Broadcasting Network every Saturday at 6 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we've been at it for quite a long time, Jack.
Do you find now that, before we kind of get into the specifics for those of my listeners who maybe don't know the story of the USS Liberty, we're going to nail that for you, but do you find that it's working, that you survivors and people like myself and others in the alternative media have really kind of made this a mainstream issue, or do you still have a long way to go?
I actually think, Jack, that we have come about as far as humanly possible. There's the only way I can say it. We have really come a long way, and considering what it was like when Phil and I first got together many years ago, well, I guess probably, I suppose we started at least 25 years ago, maybe more than that. We got together, and you didn't even dare hardly say anything back then, and now it's pretty much out there, and I don't really get a lot of the extremists who really feel that we're just picking on Israel. We don't get very many of them anymore. So I've had a chance to compare it over the years. Yes, I think we have come a long, long ways, and I got to say that the media that we're using now, and Republic Broadcasting, and some of them, they may not be the mainstream media now, but I'll bet you in the very near future they will be.
Well, as I told Phil, I did help start the network and was over there for quite some time, so I'm pretty familiar with it, as I think most of the listeners are here. What do you think would be the greatest acknowledgement? I mean, you can go find this incident, for the most part, covered pretty accurately even on Wikipedia. I mean, what would be the thing that you guys would really be pushing for if you could have anything, any kind of major acknowledgement, a U.S. president talking about this and condemning Israel, potentially making them and holding them accountable before the world? What, in your opinion, would be the ultimate achievement of your work and getting this information out all these years?
Well, that's a tough question to answer, and I don't even know, I think I'd go so far as to say a U.S. president. There's a lot of self-satisfaction, Jack, in looking in, I'll give you a good example. The Naval Law Review, volume 36 of the winter of 1986, pretty much spells it out. Yes, it's been a while ago, but even in 1986, the Naval Law Review, and by the way, there's a disclaimer on this, that the views expressed in this article are those of the author and do not reflect the official policy or position of the United States government, the Department of Defense, or the Department of the Navy. But this is for the Naval Justice School. This is a research done by Lieutenant Commander Walter Jacobson, who received his BA degree from Northwestern University and his JD degree from Suffolk University in 1975, and his LLM degree from the National Law Center at George Washington University in 1985. Now, here's a lawyer who has taken the facts and the testimony, and he's come up with a conclusion. And, of course, as I read the disclaimer, you understand that this is only his thoughts. His conclusions were that this was, I'm sorry, I'm having to scroll through here, Jack.
Sure.
Where I want to be. The conclusion, the crew members of the torpedo boats violated their duty under the Maritime Convention and the customary law of war recognized by the post-World War II war crimes trials, who adequately cared for survivors of battles at sea, and they committed a grave breach of Maritime Convention by intentionally and wantonly destroying the ship's life rafts. Lieutenant Lloyd Painter, if I could ever get a hold of him, I think he's trying to just enjoy what's left of life. He was one of the men that saw them destroying the life rafts, and then Phil Turney also saw them destroy them.
So, I mean, what I'm hoping for is to even, because if we have an objective and we have a place we're trying to go, then we'll all work together to try to get there. So I didn't mean to ask you and drag this out, even talking to my listeners too, because a lot of them maybe don't even know what happened. So let's do this. Ron Kukal is with us. He's a former chaplain for the USS Liberty Veterans Association. He was a U.S. Navy first-class petty officer stationed on the USS Liberty during Israel's attack on June 8, 1967. Take us back there. I know it's painful, but start, I guess, wherever you want to, and what happened that day.
Okay, I arose that morning about 6 o'clock and did the usual, went into the bathroom and I brushed my teeth, all that kind of stuff, and there was a lot of chatter going on around me already at 6 o'clock in the morning that there was we had gotten the attention of several planes that had been flying around us, and since I was never topside, I kind of got to go on a hearsay thing on this because my duties were down below, and that's where I stayed most of the day, with the exception of when we had a general quarters drill, and then I had to go topside for that. But there was a lot of chatter, even as I was on my way to the breakfast line, that we were getting a lot of attention from a lot of they were marked planes. They were Israeli planes with the Star David on them. And one of the guys even told me that day that they flew so close that he waved at the pilot, and he could recognize everything about the plane, almost everything about the pilot, and he waved back. So they were flying very close. And I can't be really specific about how many times they flew reconnaissance around the Liberty because, like I said, I wasn't topside. And I read the book that Jimenez wrote, and he had it nailed as to how many times they did this. But it was plenty of times to let them know exactly who we were. And so as the day wore on, I had already finished breakfast and went to my working space, which is 2 decks down below the main deck. I worked all morning long, and all I heard incessant chatter constantly about the planes that were circling us on a regular basis. And I dismissed it as nothing to worry about. If they were Israeli planes, they were our friends. And there was nothing there to worry about. I told my men, don't worry about it. There's nothing to worry about. And as the day went on, it's time to go to chow. 11:30 for me was, then I went topside. And I did observe one of the, I don't remember the Air Force nomenclature for it. I think it's a C-137 flying boxcar. I believe that's what it is. But it was high above me, and so I didn't know who had the plane, who the plane belonged to, or anything. And that's the only thing that I saw that day. Now, we had chow, and I ate until about, I didn't eat till 12:30, but I got done with chow at 12:30, and then we were to have a general quarters drill at 1300, 1 o'clock p.m. I hung around for that, and my general quarters station was topside, and so that's where I went for that drill. We spent an hour at the drill, and at 1400, right on the mark, I believe it was, the captain gave us a rundown on the drill and what he thought of it, and then we headed back towards our working space. And as I said, mine was 2 decks down below the main deck. It takes about 5 minutes, I guess, 4 or 5 minutes, without any stops to get from where I was outside to my working space. And so, excuse me, I want to walk away from my dog here. It was about 5 minutes, and by the time I got to my desk and just got set down, I heard what sounded like to me, it sounded like, being an old Nebraska native, it sounded like hail on a tin roof, is about what it sounded like to me. And for one thing, I refused to even recognize that anything like an attack on the ship was happening. I just thought it was, I even went to the point of thinking it might have been we'd hit something or maybe run aground or something like that. Anything to keep my mind away from what was actually happening. Well, let's see, it was, I don't know, probably about 2:10, 2:15. We got strafed out. Maybe the exact time I can't remember, but we were strafed over and over again, and the sound that I was hearing, of course, was a strafing, and men were dying above me, 2 decks above me, on the main deck, 9 of them, if I remember correctly, and as we got into the attack a little bit further, the captain came over the 1MC, which is a ship's loudspeaker system, and his words were, prepare for torpedo attack. Well, we were locked in down below. I didn't think there would be any more preparing to do, other than just stand by and wait to see what happened. And it wasn't very long after he said prepare for a torpedo attack that a torpedo did hit the starboard side of the ship. I was about 30 foot from it when it exploded, and I believe there might have been 2 bulkheads which just folded like tissue paper between me and the torpedo explosion. My compartment instantly filled with water, and I mean instantly. I had water up to my waist in no time. And, of course, our training, which I can't say enough about in boot camp in the Navy, was it's unsurpassed in my mind. And I knew what I had to do, and I knew where to go, when to do what I was doing, and my you have to excuse me because this gets a little tough.
No, I totally take all the time you want, Ron, really.
Yeah, so as the water was going up above my waist, I headed towards one of the hatchways, which was right next to the ladder that led. I want to back up just a little bit. Before the torpedo hit, and I'm going to leave this for a lot of people's are going to have different thoughts about this, but about a few seconds before the torpedo hit, someone, and it seems like it came internally with me, I didn't hear that, someone yelled, "Get down." I don't know who that could have been because I was the senior man in that department, and if anybody's duty, it would have been mine to do it, and I got to admit that I just didn't have the foresight to tell everybody to get down. I heard the get down, and then seconds before the torpedo hit, someone pushed me to the deck, flat. Now, nobody was around me, so I'm going to leave it to the listeners to make up their mind why someone told me to get down and why I ended up on the deck and why men died all around me and I ended up with a few scratches.
Divine intervention is, I think, where you're going, right?
Well, like I said, I'll leave it up to the readers. Okay. As far as I'm concerned, Jack, you hit the nail right on the head, and I will never, ever back away from what I feel about that. So, after the torpedo hit, I headed directly towards the hatch. And the ladder for to get up to the deck up above was just right around the corner, and I knew exactly where it was. there's a battle lantern above the hatchway just to my left, and a lot of times battle lanterns didn't work, but that day it worked, and it worked when I needed it because it showed me exactly where the hatch was and how to get through it. And when I reached the ladder, there were men grappling with not with each other, but, you know, trying to get up the ladder as fast as they could. And when we got to the top, or to the hole where the hatch was, I think it was locked for a short while, but Phil Turney was a man that opened up the scuttle hole in the hatchway, which is not real big, but big enough for one man to crawl through. And we came out one at a time. And I don't know where I was at. All I know is I got out, and I know there was a hand reaching for me when I reached for the scuttle hole, and I wouldn't be a bit surprised. It was probably Phil Turney. But anyway, I was pulled out of there, and as soon as I got out, I headed directly towards the passageway that took me to the main deck up above. And it was hard to get there because it was slick in those passageways. What it was blood and water mixed, I guess, is the only way I can put it. And slipping the slide, and I got all the way to the main deck, and just started to step out into the clear blue sky and the air and the fresh air. And I come across Lieutenant George Golden, who was the engineering officer, and he told me, and no, he didn't tell me, he ordered me to go back down and make sure everybody got out. So orders are orders, and I did that. I went back down and I looked in the hole down below, and all I could see down there was black, murky, and you could hear the water sloshing around down there. I didn't hear anybody screaming or hollering for help, so I got to admit I didn't stay there very long. I went back topside, and this time George let me go on out, and when I went out, and this is Phil Turney's story, all of us guys were out there on the main deck on a clear blue day, shaking each other's hands because we'd gotten out of there, you know. And he said while that was going on, they were spraying the deck, the main deck, with 50 caliber machine gun bullets coming from the torpedo boats, and we were oblivious to them. We were so happy to get out from down below. And this is Phil's story to me. Actually, I don't remember it, Jack, but and I probably wouldn't, because there was nothing greater than getting out of that dark hole down there and coming up there where you could see the sun.
Yeah.
So
this is when you guys began getting into the life rafts and abandoning ship?
There's no life rafts to get in. They shot him up.
Yeah.
So Lieutenant Lloyd Painter would tell you that if he was sitting here right now, and so would Phil. For a few moments, I really don't recall how I ended up, or where I ended up for a while. But later on, I know I ended up on the nest decks where they were putting all the injured and the men that were dying. And I remember walking by our executive officer, Lieutenant Commander Armstrong, and saying a few words to him. And little did I know that just a few minutes later, after I talked to him, and several other of the crew members talked to him, he died. And there was several men that died down there. Some of them, I think, on an operating table, which was nothing but the mess deck table. And our fantastic Dr. Kiefer operated on some of these men when he was injured himself. And I can't say enough about him. We lost our after steering control between the captains where the pilot house was and the fantail. So that was my next duty, was to go down below, and by sound-powered phone, we were steering the ship by hand down below, turning the rudder, and making our way towards Malta. And I got to tell you, I went out after I got done with my time down there, and someone relieved me. I looked out and went out on the fantail, and it looked like the snake going through the through the ocean, because we just didn't have very good control. I think they finally restored that when possibly when the USS Davis finally came up alongside, but I'm not sure about that. There's a lot of things I'm not sure of anymore. I'm going to be 75 in October, so...
Hey, I'm much younger than you, and I have problems with my memory sometimes, especially in something as shocking as this. We're about to go to break, and we're here with Ron Kukal. He's a survivor from the USS Liberty incident, which took place June 8th. We won't be on the air, so we're doing it this week ahead of time. June 8th, 1967. This was just a mere 3 days, I believe, into the alleged Six-Day War, which is kind of a misnomer in itself. I want to, when we come back here, go ahead if you wanted to comment on that. I mean, that's kind of, we get this package, Egypt deserved it, and this 6-day war, blah, blah, blah. And it was really an overwhelming force that did conquer, I guess, Egypt and take a lot of territory. I mean, there's so many questions to this. Well, I want to get you to finish your story because it gets worse from here, folks. Remind people quickly where you were, exactly what position you guys were in, where the boat was, where the USS Liberty was when it was attacked by Israeli jets.
15 miles, I believe it was, off the Sinai.
Okay. One of the things I talked about with Phil was the potential that you guys heard something. Somebody aboard your ship, I guess you had some pretty high-tech listening devices there, and that you might have intercepted some top-secret information that could not get out. And this could have been the reason for the attack. We'll also kind of tear apart the excuses that Israel has given for this attack. We'll talk about Jim Morrison's dad, Admiral Morrison, and his role in the cover-up and then the exposing of what really happened at the USS Liberty. And, Ron, stay with me because I do have to go to break here in just a minute, and I want you to finish your story, and we'll have to do that in somewhat of a timely manner so I can get to answers to some of these questions. And then it's the RFK anniversary, the first day of the Six-Day War and the anniversary of the RFK, Robert F. Kennedy assassination by a Palestinian, allegedly. Now we're finding out maybe not. Sirhan, almost 1 year later to the day of the USS Liberty incident. And I'm sure, Ron, even you find some of these coincidences a little uncoincidental.
I've got a couple when we come back.
Yeah, we'll do that. Okay. Plenty of information on this, just about anywhere. Make sure that what you're doing for this June 8th is telling people about this. They're going to be shocked, and I think it could really shift their paradigms, or if not, eliminate them. We'll be right back for the second hour. It's the Jack Blood Show. Stay with us.
People are starting to get serious about their health. This is exciting. Listen to one of our health partners.
Hi, my name is Sarah, and I live in Arizona. I'm a certified personal trainer, fitness instructor, and weight loss specialist. I believe that exercise and a healthy diet are the main keys in physical fitness. As you know, our food industry has been compromised, and Life Change Tea is 100% organic and is specifically designed to help cleanse your body on a daily basis. I try to encourage all of my clients to drink Life Change Tea to help them jumpstart their fitness goals. I really would recommend that you make Life Change Tea your partner on your journey to a healthy lifestyle.
There you go. So make the choice, make the call. Call us at 928-308-0408. That's 928-308-0408. Or you can log on to getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. 928-308-0408. Get excited, get healthy, get the tea.
Now you can feel that squeaky clean sensation like none other with Vitamer Toothpaste and Mouthwash. Vitamer Toothpaste and Mouthwash is a unique natural formula not found in any other oral care products. With a gentle combination of zinc, folic acid, myrrh, and clove oil, Vitamer effectively whitens teeth, removes plaque, and freshens breath, and it does it naturally without any harmful chemicals. Visit us online at Vitamer.com. That's VITAMYR.com. Or call us today to place your order at 1-888-558-8482. That's 1-888-558.
This is your alarm clock. Second hour of the Jack Blood Show starts right now. I'm Jack Blood, your narrator, your radio gun here 5 days a week, allegedly, Monday through Friday, 3 o'clock to 5 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time on the Micro Effect and affiliates. Thanks for tuning us in. Welcome, my fellow thought criminals, enemies of the state, and feral humans, wherever you might be. Ron Kukal is with us today to talk about the anniversary of the USS Liberty attack by Israel from June 8th, 1967. It's so great that you guys are still around, and I just am so happy you're taking care of yourself so you can tell this story. Phil Turney, who was on with us last year and does a show with Ron Kukal at the RBN radio network on the weekends, wrote a book called What I Saw That Day. That's certainly something that you can get out. And there is, I guess, is this new? You can tell me, Ron, if this is new or not. I'm maybe somewhat a little out of the loop sometimes. Blood in the Water. It's a DVD literature package that you can get out to folks. Do you want to talk about that for a second, and we'll go back to the story?
I don't know a lot about that. I really can't talk about it. Some of these DVDs, as much as some can.
Yeah.
But if you want me to continue on...
well, hold on a second, because I do have a call, and I wanted to go to that real quick. It's George Sokol. George Sokol says he knows you, and I wanted to put him on the air here before we go forward. So, George, thank you for calling into the Jack Blood Show. You're on with Ron Kukal.
Hi, thank you very much. Hello, Ron. How you doing?
Hi, George. Yeah. Go ahead, George. I know you got a lot to say. And I want to hear it again.
Okay, I was on the America, and we pulled up alongside the Liberty about 18 to 20 hours after the attack. And I want to kind of buttress what Ron said. When we pulled alongside, I was on the flight deck, and I could look right down at the ship. Her decks were covered in blood, and the guys, believe it or not, were trying to clean the ship up. There was a 40-foot hole in the side, just about a third of the way back. She was riddled with cannon and rocket holes, bow to stern, and from the waterline to the mast edge. She was lifting toward us. We were on her starboard side. And one of the things that freaked me out was, I remember one of the holes in the stack, and it had the gray paint knocked out around the hole. And Navy primer paint is red, so it looked like a red bullseye with a hole dead center. That was my first impression of the ship. And I said she was listening towards us, and we were supposed to be there to excuse me. We were supposed to be there to protect her. And they called us off. And the hero pilot didn't even know what he was going out looking for. He, as he put it, the Navy turned him over to the Air Force and gave him a vector to fly to. He had no idea what he was flying to. He had no idea what he would see when he got there. But being an angel pilot, did exactly what he was supposed to. He started the rescue operations. And I can't imagine with all of the soot and everything all over that ship, how anybody survived it. And man, that's one hell of a crew that did. My ass off to them.
Ron, do you want to respond to George here at all, or go ahead?
No, I love to hear this story because George was off the America, and he had some very good things to say. And George, wasn't you that said that you were topside sitting in a plane, one of the planes?
Could you run it by me again?
I said, weren't you topside sitting in one of the jet planes?
I was in the hangar deck sitting in the cockpit of an A4. It was nuclear. Right. It was nuclear, and there was a Marine guarding it. And we were so freaked out because we had the news media all over the place, and there's a Marine there locked and loaded, making sure that nobody got a picture of the nuclear bombs on the planes. To give you an idea how bad it was with the media, after the attack, the Admiral guys had to take out the maps and charts and show the damn journalists that none of our aircraft nor our ship was anywhere near where that thing was hit. I'm looking at the map that he used, and it showed two of the three Russian ships that were trailing us, and what he didn't bother mentioning, and I didn't find out all about it until years later, was one of the Russian subs. It was either KR-177 or KR-175. It targeted us and Haifa with nuclear weapons. And what came out later was that they had a mercury poisoning in the ship, in the sub, and the men were hallucinating down there. And as far as we knew, when I got in that cockpit, I thought we were going after the Russians, and the Russians were coming after us. We had no idea it was the Israelis until after the attack. And the guys on the flight deck were addressing bombs like to Cairo with love. We were ready to hit anything that even thought it was a threat. And that's pretty much about it.
What do you take, George? Thank you for contributing today. I really appreciate it, and I could tell by the sound of your voice that it still rings. It's a very emotional issue, and I always feel bad asking you guys these questions. What do you take, George, from this 47 years later? What is it that sticks in your mind, and what would you want my listening audience to be able to tell their friends, their family, their coworkers, people on the street?
President Johnson had an Israeli spy in his cabinet, and he knew who attacked that ship because
did you say LBJ, George?
Israel had warned us that if the ship wasn't moved, they were going to attack it. He knew who attacked it. In the middle of the attack, he called us back, and this was before Israel admitted they attacked it. And so he had foreknowledge of what was going on, and he let it go on. In the book Beyond Treason by Robert Allen, he states that in the White House there was talk that that Johnson would never get another Gulf of Tonkin through. But now, if an American ship sank and nobody knew who sank it, he wouldn't need one. I'll let you take that where you want, but that's the extent of the Israeli chokehold they have on this government, and it's wrong on so many levels. And you spend a couple hours sitting in the cockpit with a nuke under your butt, and believing there's going to be a Russian missile or a Russian torpedo that's going to take you out. And nobody tells you anything for 2 hours. And then after that, the scuttlebutt comes out. Oh yeah, it was Israelis. It was a mistake, and they were sorry. Yeah, sorry my tail.
Well, George, again, thanks for calling in here today. We hadn't arranged that, so it was a nice surprise. You certainly dropped a few tidbits that I hadn't heard before. So I greatly appreciate you and everything you're doing. Thank you so much for calling in the show.
If you want to hear anything, just let me know. For delivery, I'm available for any time, anywhere.
Yeah, jackblood@hotmail.com, and if there's a way we can talk at another time, I would love to do that. Thank you, George. I appreciate it.
Okay.
Thanks for calling.
Right.
Thank you very much. Ron, we kind of left off. You guys had been torpedoed at the USS Liberty, and this was, again, the result of Israeli attack on this ship. What we didn't get into was how when you guys were evacuating the ship and you're with your life vests in the water, they were machine gunning you guys so you couldn't survive. And the mention of LBJ, there was at least, I think it's a substantiated comment. He said, put that GD ship down on the bottom. They didn't want any witnesses.
The words that I heard, the words that I always heard was that he didn't care what happened to us. He wasn't going to embarrass the Israelis. That's what was told to me. Actually, I think that you can look on the internet, and I think you can find that in several places. I'm not sure where you want to go, because as I was listening to George talk, I had about 10 things running through my mind, and we only do a 1-hour show on Republic Broadcasting, and it seems like we never, ever get it done.
No, really, every time I do the story, I feel like I'm just barely scratching the surface. We had you scheduled for an hour. I had not planned for George to call in, Ron, so you're more than welcome to stay longer than that if you have the time. I think it's important that we point out to people that even though it was acknowledged, the Israelis said it was a mistake, it was not a mistake. They said that they had mistaken your ship for an out-of-service Egyptian horse carrier called the El Kesser, and there's quite a difference. In fact, the ships were, I think the El Kesser was approximately 1/4 of the Liberty's tonnage, about half its length, a radically different silhouette, and this is the NSA report on the incident. And even later, a gentleman came out 15 years after the attack. An Israeli pilot approached Liberty survivors, and maybe you're one of them, and held extensive interviews with former Congressman Pete McCloskey about his role in this attack. And according to the senior Israeli lead pilot, he recognized the Liberty as an American ship immediately. He informed his headquarters. He was told to ignore the American flag, continue his attack. He refused to do so, returned to base where he was what? Arrested. Can you elaborate on that?
Nothing more than what you said, because I've read the same thing, and I believe when I was at the dedication of the USS Liberty Memorial Library, where I did the invocation, and Pete McCloskey was there, I believe he talked about this then. And that's, I'm going to back off on that a little bit, but I know the story, and what you just got through saying was exactly what I've read. And
the pilot protests were also heard by radio monitors on the U.S. Embassy in Lebanon.
Yes. I understand that to be true, too, and I can't remember the ambassador's name. I might have been
Dwight Porter.
Dwight Porter, yeah, I'm sorry. And they were able
to Robert Novak, and who was a big reporter at the time. He's gone now. Roland Evans offered to submit further to questioning by authorities. Of course, no one in the U.S. government had any interest in hearing these first-person accounts of Israeli treachery. And thus, here we are years later. Now it's all coming out.
I'd like to interject something here. We've had former Senator Adlai Stevenson on our program 3 times now. And if anybody wanted to delve into the archives, you would find out that Senator Stevenson said explicitly that he was the head of the of the Intelligence Committee, of the Intelligence Subcommittee, I believe is the way he put it, and that he could not get any interest whatsoever, except I believe from Senator Barry Goldwater, in an investigation. And he said, I wish I'd have tried harder. He was very sympathetic to, I shouldn't say sympathetic, but he understood how we felt about this. There's no doubt about it. And he actually came on our show. He's been on the show 3 times now, and twice I know he said there was nobody was interested in getting a congressional investigation going on this. So the Naval Board of Inquiry was the only thing that ever happened, and the counsel for that was Captain Ward Boston. And Ward Boston has already got a public statement that the inquiry was a sham, and that he was forced into making the decision to be as an accident.
It was, quote, one of the classic all-American cover-ups, said retired Admiral Thomas Moorer, former Joint Chiefs of Staff Chairman, who spent a year investigating the attack as part of an independent panel he formed with other former military officials. The panel also concluded that former U.S. Ambassador to Saudi Arabia, James Atkins, in this, quote, why would our own government put Israel's interests ahead of our own? Moorer asked from his wheelchair at the news conference, and that's pretty famous as well. How does Admiral Morrison, who happens to be Jim Morrison's, the rock star's father, how does he fit into this? Have you looked into that too much?
Well, he was the head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, of course, and you're talking about Admiral Thomas Moore, correct?
I was just earlier. Now I'm talking about Admiral George Stephen Morrison, again, who was also, by the way, involved in the Gulf of Tonkin incident in 1964, the false flag attack which garnered support for the American public to go to war with Vietnam. So he's involved in that. He keeps that thing secret. He keeps his mouth shut, but supposedly he starts trying to speak out and get the truth about what happened to the USS Liberty. Was so outraged, and a lot of people say this ended his career. That is Admiral Morrison.
Okay, I was listening to you say that, and I knew you probably weren't speaking more, but the reason I ask this is because I didn't know much about the thing with Morrison, but I certainly know a lot about Admiral Thomas Moore and Admiral Merlin Starling, who actually spent overnight at my home here about 5 or 6 years ago, and what he told me over my breakfast table, which nobody else has ever heard, and he substantiated the fact that he was the JAG at the time. I think the Judge Advocate General's office was just beginning in the Navy then, but he was a top Navy lawyer. And I got to tell you, I was absolutely overwhelmed by his presence at my breakfast table. And as he sat there, he said, I want to tell you this, Ron, because I'm getting old, and I want you to know that the papers that I was supposed to examine about the Liberty to try to discern the facts from the facts and testimony were on my desk one day and gone the next. So they were stolen out of his office. And I don't think I'm going to say who I think did it, but I think some people would. But he never got a chance to do his job. And I don't think when Admiral Starling said at my table, he even mentioned who it was. He said, I had the papers. I was to do my job on this. It would have taken me several days to do it, and they were stolen right off his desk.
I'm sure you've heard of the band called The Doors. Jim Morrison was the singer of The Doors. And just again, to remind my audience, Admiral Morrison was his father. They were estranged, allegedly. And according to the information I have, Admiral Morrison, who again was involved in the Gulf of Tonkin incident and kept quiet, Admiral Morrison had opposed the official U.S. Navy response to the attack and proposed an immediate and swift economic and military response against Israel for the attack on an official U.S. Navy ship. I mean, that pretty much goes farther than anyone else, if that's true. His son died a few years later, Jim Morrison, and many believe there was foul play involved in his murder. I just can't help but put that on the record, if you understand, Ron.
I appreciate it, and I wish I could and add on to it. I can't. There's some things I won't say. We had several things happen over the last 47 years. It'll be 47 years soon. And if I wasn't there, all I can do is tell you what I heard. And my part, the worst part for me was the body recovery. And I was the petty officer in charge of that. I worked for a Lieutenant Lee. And if anybody expects some things come out of my mouth that are pretty gross to hear over the air, they're not going to hear them, because for some reason the human body has a way of blocking things out it doesn't want you to read.
Yeah.
And
I mean, that some would call that PTSD, Ron. I mean, that's kind of where we're at.
PTSD, yeah. I love that handle. I got to tell you, that's a tough thing to live with, because when someone finds out that you've been tagged with that, why you're terrible to be around and you're the worst person that ever walked, that's not true.
No, in fact, hey, hold on a second, Ron. In fact, we covered extensively and continue to cover a bill called H.R. 2640, that is the NICS Improvement Act of 2007, signed by President Bush, also agreed on by the candidates of that year, McCain and Obama, and it is what we call the Veterans Disarmament Act. You claim to have PTSD in this country, and they will take away your Second Amendment rights. I mean, it's just really obtuse and ugly, I think.
I think it's a way to turn everything around 180 degrees to make a patriot look like a terrorist.
Yeah.
And I don't know how else to put it.
Yeah. It's just for my listening audience, a little tidbit on all this. My dad, my father, booked concerts and did book the Doors when they first started, and I knew as a little baby Jim Morrison, so that's why I'm always kind of interested in that part of the story. What is it, Ron, if I can ask you, why this happened? Have you figured it out? Why Israel attacked? Why LBJ and the media and everybody covered it up? But more importantly, why it happened? Why do you think that they did this to you?
I wish I could answer that and really nail it down, and I can't. There's been some people that have said, and I do tend to listen to this reason, that there was a little over 100 Egyptian prisoners of war at El Arish that were murdered because they couldn't take care of these prisoners and put in a mass grave.
Yeah.
And they thought that we had discovered that. Well, I think we could have discovered it, but I don't know if we did or not. There's so many reasons out there.
Just to make sure that if you heard that or not, they would go ahead and finish the job and cut that possibility that could leak out to anyone else. War crimes by Israel against Egyptians. And that's what Bill and I think, talked about. Any possibility that this was a false flag? And what were you guys doing there? What was your job there? Do you have access to that information, Ron?
No. I'm just going to repeat the question again, so I want to make sure you got it right.
You guys, what was the USS Liberty's role to be there off the Sinai at the beginning of the 6-Day War? What was your mission statement? What were your orders?
Well, we were a listening post. Everybody knows that. But we weren't explicitly listening to Israel, and we were just doing the best we could to figure out what was going on there and going on around us. But we weren't there explicitly to listen to Israel. We were a listening post. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah. which I think explains a lot.
I hope so.
Yeah. Do you think that there was a correlation? If you'll stay a few minutes, we're about to go to break again with Ron Kukal. He's a survivor of the USS Liberty, and there's so much more information we want to get you, and I want to give him every opportunity to speak his mind. Can you stay for just a little bit longer today, Ron, or do you have to be somewhere else?
No, that's no problem. I can. The only thing that happens to me is I get a little shaky, a little upset as we get into the further, but right now it's just fine. So I'll be glad.
I get a little shaky and upset, and I wasn't even there. So I totally understand that. I did want to take some calls at 888-747-1968, 888-747-1968. We're going to go to break here in a second. I'm going to go to Don in Ohio. Do you think today is the anniversary of the RFK murder, and there's plenty of information to show that looked like an inside job? 1 year later, blamed on a Palestinian, which of course, again, aids and comforts Israel's role in secluding and torturing literally the people of Palestine, in my humble opinion. Do you think those things are connected? 1 year later, RFK was assassinated?
Well, that's a good one. That's sure a good one. We just, I don't know how much time we got, but one of the ladies that's writing, a professor I know that's writing a book on this, says there's a lot of things that don't seem to be happenstance. For example, you guys were attacked no more than a few minutes after your general quarters drill. And she just hit me like a ton of bricks with that, so I got to thinking, well, of course, that's when we're most vulnerable. Simply, we're kicked back, the drill's over with, and nobody's worried about a thing. And that's when you're the most vulnerable. Some people can bring stuff up to me after all these years, and this professor did it with me big time.
I want to follow up on those drills, and we'll go to Don in Ohio with Ron Kukal, a survivor of the U.S. Liberty attack. This is the Jack Blood Show. Stay with us.
Now you can feel that squeaky clean sensation like none other with Vitamer toothpaste and mouthwash. Vitamer toothpaste and mouthwash is a unique natural formula not found in any other oral care products. With a gentle combination of zinc, folic acid, myrrh, and clove oil, Vitamer effectively whitens teeth, removes plaque, and freshens breath, and it does it naturally without any harmful chemicals. Visit us online at Vitamer.com. That's VITAMYR.com. Or call us today to place your order at 1-888-558-8482. That's 1-888-558-8482. Keep your teeth and gums healthy with Vitamer toothpaste and mouthwash. Vitamer, nature's answer to healthy teeth and gums. And remember, it's all completely natural. Available at participating health food stores nationwide.
We interrupt this program for an urgent announcement. The power's gone and the lights are out. We now have an emergency situation. Time to light your emergency candles. Don't have any? Then it's time to order your supply of emergency grab-and-go candles from LisaKCandles.com. The emergency candles outperform even the most extreme conditions. They are soot and toxin-free and have a natural extended shelf life. The time is now, so don't delay. Have emergency candles from Lisa K Candles ready when you need them, so you remain in the light and out of the dark. Go to LisaKCandles.com. That's Lisa, the letter K, Candles.com. Or call 731-441-3293. That's 731-441-3293. We now return you to your regular scheduled program already in progress.
Hi, folks. Ronnie McMullen here for Life Change Tea. Do you ever get the feeling that sickness is looming over you, and with one wrong move, you could be in trouble? Well, I have news for you. Good news. Life Change Tea can help you with your health problems. We are GMO-free, we are gluten-free, and we are caffeine-free. Our product helps with digestive problems, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, acid reflux, constipation, and our product even helps you with weight loss just by drinking our tea. Join us in the fight against sickness. Change your life now. Log on to getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. Or you can call our friendly operators at 928 928-308-0408. Again, 928-308-0408. Learn about Life Change Tea at GetTheTea.com. We also carry many other life-changing products, including potent sea vegetables at GetTheTea.com. If you want health, if you want results, log on to GetTheTea.com and order today.
TheMicroEffectLive.com. The Micro Effect, Kamei, Idaho, where every day is a holiday. Yes, sir. Where every paycheck is a fortune. Yes, sir. Kamei, Idaho, where every meal is a banquet. Yes, sir. Where your instincts will serve you better than your government. Yes, sir. I get you. Yes, sir. TheMicroEffectLive.com. The Micro Effect, a worldwide broadcast on the internet and on KU-band satellite. Telstar 5, Transponder 5, TheMicroEffectLive.com. The most important phone number you'll need to remember is 888-747-1968. Again, 888-747-1968. Don't miss it. Yes, sir!
Great American tragedies, the assassination of Robert F. Kennedy. But now there's a new account of what happened that night in 1968. As you know, Sirhan Sirhan was sentenced to life as a lone shooter, but his attorneys are hoping for a new trial now. Among the evidence they may present is a story told by Nina Rose Hughes. That's her on the left with Robert F. Kennedy. She was there at the Ambassador Hotel the night Kennedy was shot. And in an exclusive interview with CNN, she says there's part of the story the FBI has ignored all these years.
There were more than 8 shots, and interesting that you read whatever the FBI issued, everybody said 8 shots. Not. I wish there were some recordings of me that night. Well, you know, I did give an interview to someone with a microphone where I said there were at least 12, maybe 14, and I know there was because I heard the rhythm in my head, you know, and I know with the first 2 or 3 shots, I wasn't aware. As I said, I thought they were flashbulbs. What has to come out is that there was another shooter to my right, and Robert Kennedy was also to my right, where Sirhan was almost straight ahead, and a tad to my left, standing on some steel, raised platform, and that there were 2 shooters. It must come out and who they were. It must come out who the other shooter is, because there definitely was another shooter.
Rose Hughes was never called as a witness in the original trial, but she says she just wants to get her story out.
Thank you for tuning us in. It's the Jack Blood Show, the microeffect.com, deadlinelive.info, radiofreeblood.com, Facebook, Jack Blood, Twitter, Jack Blood. I mean, the original writers on the storm is the survivors of the USS Liberty.
Into this world we're gone, like a dog without a bone, and we're out alone, riders on the storm.
And we're taking calls at 888-747-1968. 1967 is when the USS Liberty attack happened 47 years ago. It's June 5th, 2014. We're live. 888-747-1968. Ron Kukal is with us in the broadcast today. He's a survivor from the USS Liberty. He's been telling his story. I got to tell you, it's very compelling, Ron. Every time I talk to one of you guys, and it's the first time you've been on our show, I've been on the air for 14 years, and we've done this story multiple times. It just sends chills down my spine, my poor, broken, fused spine, that you guys are still around after all these years telling this story. And it just amazes me, Ron Kukal, that most people still don't even know it. Even people who consider themselves pretty educated on geopolitics and world history, they still don't know your story.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear there are some around like that, but I will admit one thing. what we've done, and I would like to make it abundantly clear, and I know you got a phone call on the line, I'd like to make it abundantly clear that if anyone thinks for one moment that after that attack, that we just all got together like some orderly bunch of gentlemen and decided we were going to tell this story. No, it was not that way at all. We were loosely knit. I would call it almost a ragtag outfit for a long time, just barely communicating with each other. And the first few reunions that we went to, we were still seeing people with their wounds, seeing people with shrapnel who had shrapnel in their head, and one man who had a seizure at a reunion. I think that we've done several memorial services over the years, and we did one there. And it's almost, Jack, like we can't bury these people. We just keep trying to bury them. But that sounds strange? I hope not. Because when something's unresolved, and there's so much proof of what these people tried to do to us, and I refuse to call them Jews, I will call them Zionists.
Yeah.
Because not all Jews are Zionists, and not all Zionists are Jews. I had a very good friend.
I understand that, and there's even people above that using this as a shield, or a red shield, if you don't mind me saying, to achieve even a higher index.
I couldn't have said it any better. When I went to one of my reunions in Washington, D.C., a wonderful old Jewish gentleman by the name of Arthur Kobacker, who owned one of the biggest shoe companies in the United States, was sitting right across the table from me. I think the shoe company now is Payless. I think he sold those shoes to Payless Shoes. And he sat there right across from me. He financed most all of that reunion. So I sat there and we became such good friends. Here, just millionaire sitting next to this lowly, I don't want to say lowly, but average run-of-the-mill, who you'd see on the street everyday person, and we became good friends. So I've been in several arguments with a lot of people, and I will not accept that that it's a Jewish race that's doing all this. I will accept they're Zionists, but I won't accept these are all bad people. I just don't know what I have.
As the great comedian Bill Hicks said, all governments are liars and murderers. That doesn't include the people, because we've had plenty of people on who are Israeli citizens and Jews who oppose what happened and what happens and still what happens today. I'm going to take calls periodically with Ron Kukal, the USS Liberty survivor. The anniversary, of course, is the 8th. We're here today on the, I guess it's the 5th, but have to get this job done before the weekend. 888-888-747-1968. So I'll take your calls as I can. I got a lot more questions for our guest today, Ron Kukal. John in Ohio, thank you for holding. You're on the Jack Blood Show.
Hi, Jack, and hello, Ron. My condolences to you for your great loss. I used to have a show on the Micro Effect, and I'm not afraid to give my last name if you want to hear it, but I went down the rabbit hole on this story in regard to some research that I was doing on the McCains, and I'm speaking about all three McCains, and as well as Dwight Eisenhower. And I found some really interesting things that really point the finger at the McCains, whose real name, their birth name was McCann. They were, all three were illegitimate children of the King of England, who at the time was a prince, when he sired these children with a woman named Jenny Jerome. And their names were McCann. John McCann Sr., John McCann. Actually, it was Albert McCann Jr., who became John McCain Jr., and then John Sidney McCain was the youngest one. Though they were all sired by a woman named Jenny Jerome from New York, who happened to be the wife of Sir Randolph Churchill, the father of Winston Churchill. This is how tight these guys were. And I wrote a two-part expose called Teenage Mutant Ninja Birth Certificates and Teenage Mutant Ninja Eisenhowers. and I tracked the Eisenhower bloodline and, of course, the McCains. Now, Ron, I wanted to ask you a question. Are you aware of who was the commander of the Atlantic Fleet at the time of...
Good question. I was going to bring this up. Go ahead.
The USS Liberty attack. Are you aware?
Admiral McCain.
McCain, who was really Albert McCann. He was the second illegitimate child sired by the guy who became King Edward VII. Okay.
He is a cousin. He is a bloodline. That we have talked about on the show, as is Obama and Bush. And I think that is relevant. But the fact that, and I appreciate you calling in, and I want Ron, if you could expound on that a little bit more, Ron Kukal. Thanks for the call.
All right.
The McCain role, the cover-up of Admiral McCain. We mentioned Admiral Morrison, but here's Admiral McCain. And not too long ago, I think about 3 years ago, John McCain praised his father's whitewashing of this Israeli attack. And there is nobody in our government more friendly and more attached to AIPAC and the Jewish lobby than John McCain. And we see this every day in every statement he makes. So I guess the love fest with Israel continues to the sun.
Can I answer your question with another, with a little short story?
Sure.
I think it was last year. Admiral John McCain, Senator John McCain, spoke at the memorial service in San Diego. We had a supporter of USS Liberty Veterans Association. He supports us in a big way. While McCain was speaking, and this hit the news big time, he hollered out at John McCain. He said, "What about the USS Liberty?" And everybody shouted him down, which made me feel real sad, because all he wanted to know is, why are we forgetting the USS Liberty? And McCain called him a jerk. That was on BBC, CBS, a whole ball of wax.
Do you think in a way there's a metaphor here that Liberty was gunned down by Israel? Is that too esoteric?
I don't know. Some of us have said outright murdered. I don't know. Yeah, that's as good as any.
Well, and a lot of people connect the JFK assassination, at least on some part, to Israeli Mossad agents working through a front company called Permindex. A lot of people connect Israelis to 9/11.
Yes, they do. I don't really go there because I'm not informed enough, but they certainly do. I agree with that.
I mean, it kind of answers the question on how John McCain has survived all these years, how he got the nomination in 2008, right? I mean, I was going to the straw polls where Ron Paul was running, who might have actually, if he was president, declared this as a moment in history, compensation for victims, and somebody who, I'm sorry, believes that we should cut aid to Israel, which is now about $2 trillion plus. And I was there in those straw polls, Ron, and I got to tell you, when McCain's name was mentioned, he got 2 votes or 1 vote from some old lady, and they literally, when they mentioned his name, people laughed. How in the hell did he get that nomination? And I think that was a huge moment for me, because I realized how the nomination process is fixed, and we saw that repeat itself again in 2012 with cousin Mitt Romney and cousin Barry Obama.
I can't tell you on the air what I think of this man.
No, you can. You're welcome to on my show. Go ahead.
Well, I do respect the office, but I have no respect for him. None whatsoever. And I think his father had a lot to do with the papers being taken off of Admiral Staring's desk, although I can't point the finger that way, but a lot of people will. If I can't point out something that's fact, I usually don't say a whole lot except what I've heard. And there's a good reason, I think, that Admiral Staring made a point at his latter part of his life to come to my home and sit down and tell me exactly what was done to him. Now, Admiral Staring is gone. He passed away a couple of years ago. but the respect that I have for Admiral Thomas Moore and Merlin Starring, I just, it would be 180 degrees around of what I think of John McCain. That's about the best way I can put it.
And they're out of power. He's still in power, and every day wanting to go into Syria, wanting to attack the Russians in Kiev or in Ukraine. Behind, though critical of the manner and fashion of how Libya was handled. You know, I can't stress this enough, folks. This is where it all starts. When we look at things like the Gulf of Tonkin, we look at things like the USS Liberty, we have to remind people of the most important aspect of all of this. You want to support the troops? Support Ron Kukal. Okay, support Phil Turney. Support the survivors of the USS Liberty. Then you want to support the troops. You can't have it both ways. But we get to the end of the story, and it's always the same story. As Smedley Butler said, war is a racket.
I would love to see this Saturday, we're going to memorialize these men one more time on Republic Broadcasting. I'm not stepping on anybody's toes here, am I?
No, not for this. Maybe another time.
Okay. We're doing a memorial service for Republic Broadcasting Network. It's on the show Your Voice Counts. Comes on at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And what we want to see happen here is we want to see the board light up like a Christmas tree. We want to see the support that this country has for one of the most decorated ships in the United States Navy that has completely been forgotten. And John McCain definitely wants to forget it. We want to see that telephone board light up. And I would appreciate it that anybody that would call in and just give us a good word, an affirmative word, thank you, whatever. Because these men that died, the 34, I picked them up with my own hands. I helped pick up 6 of them whose bodies were never found. But what we did is we took the pieces that were left over and we called it those 6 men. Those 6 men are buried in Arlington. And that's how devastating the attack was. Pieces of men trying to put them together like a jigsaw puzzle. That's what the attack amounted to for me. And thank God I'm still here to tell this story. And and thank for doing people like you, Jack.
Really, thank you, Ron, for being on our show today and spending all this time. And I promise you, this kind of a show stays in my archives and gets to hundreds of thousands of people minimally over the years as we go forward. And this will, it's really the true definition of why I do this show and what my archives are for and why it's important for people. I hope that everyone gets out on June 8th, go out on the road. Maybe hold up a sign with a question mark, USS Liberty. Go out and talk to people about it. I'd be really impressed if you people just go out and stand on a busy street and hold a sign. I know it seems benign. I know it seems fruitless and futile, but I've done it myself, and I could tell you that it really does kind of raise consciousness. The more people understand USS Liberty, the more they're going to understand where our American foreign policy and international foreign policy is right today. It is a main keystone, capstone point in American history, and we've got great people like Ron Kukal and Phil Turney and others who are telling the story. Anything else you want to put on the record real quick before we let you go?
Yes, Jack. I'd like to read those 6 names of those men buried in Arlington.
Yes.
The pieces that we put together and threw in one body bag. They are James M. Lupton, Jerry Lee Goss from Indiana. Lupton was from Louisiana. David Marlborough, I talked to his parents at reunions time and time again. I can't tell you how heartbreaking that was. Lawrence F. Hayden, Carl Z. Nygren, and Jack Rapier. They were killed. There was nothing, there was not a whole body left. So we threw them all in one body bag, and that's the people that are buried in Arlington. I got to close on that, Jack, and I certainly appreciate the chance to talk to people and tell them as much as I possibly can, point blank, what really happened to the USS Liberty on June 8, 1967. Thanks, Jack.
My man. Hey, best wishes to you. Stay bold. Mighty forces will come to your aid and to ours. That's right there. Ron Kukal. Thank you, Ron, for joining us. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Jack. God bless.
There he goes. All right. Be right back in a second.